Egypt's Giza Plateau. The Great Pyramid, the last remaining marvel of the ancient world, is undoubtedly the most mysterious building on Earth. Its construction and intended use have given rise to countless theories. Researchers have been astounded by the mathematical knowledge that is encoded in the Great Pyramid, the measurements that are used in it, and even the placement of the Great Pyramid has sparked great interest among Egyptologists ever since the first studies of the Great Pyramid in Egypt were made. The Great Pyramid is the only structure on Earth that is aligned to true north within 360th of a degree. What makes this alignment even more intriguing is to consider tracking back in time, because the Earth's axis has been slowly shifting over time. This is what we call processes, and if there has been a shift in that alignment, it could mean that it was even more accurately aligned to N. If you pass a great circle from the Great Pyramid through its cardinal and its ordinal directions, you find that these circles will pass through more land mass of the Earth than any other location on Earth, indicating that the Great Pyramid is crucially situated at the center of the world's landmass. The Great Pyramid is not only perfectly aligned to the cardinal points, but its placement on the Earth also appears to be intentional. For an accurate survey of the Great Pyramid in 1925, mathematicians and researchers have discovered even more profound connections relating to geodetic information or information pertaining to the measurement and representation of the Earth encoded in its design. The Great Pyramid was built the level of technological sophistication far in excess of anything that we have today. They don't use the inch, as we normally have it in the English system. It's the cubit. And what's interesting about this cubit is that it is exactly 125 millionth of the polar diameter of the Earth, meaning the distance from the North Pole to the South Pole of the Earth, chop it up into 25 million pieces. There's your cubit, it's perfect. Just if you actually take the length for the Great Pyramid at its mean socket level, which is the corners of the actual building, it translates into 365.24 pyramid cubits, which just happens to be the earlier write down to a quarter there. The measurements of the length and width of the perimeter of the Great Pyramid correspond to an exact fraction of both the latitude and longitude measurements at the equator scaled up. This means the Great Pyramid directly corresponds to the circumference of the equator, as well as the measurement from the equator to the pole, making it a scale model of the Northern Hemisphere. Recently, using satellite technology, researchers have realized yet another. The design incorporates a sophisticated formula. When you consider the enormous amount of information about the Earth that is encoded into the Great Pyramid, you can't just dismiss all of this as a random coincidence. If you take the location of the Great Pyramid as a coordinate, this number sequence of this coordinate matches exactly the speed of light traveling through space, measured in meters per second. Egypt's Valley of the Kings, the King Bakal Mausoleum in Palenque, Mexico, and the Taj Mahal in Agra, India. Spectacular burial sites that are thousands of years old have been discovered all over the world, according to mainstream researchers. However, could they also serve a deeper, possibly extraterrestrial function? Why do we have the largest of constructions in the far-off past? Well, according to ancient texts and traditions, this knowledge was given to our ancestors by the gods. Why are practically all tombs tied to ideas of spiritual energy, representations of astronomy, and a strong belief in the existence of other, possibly more spiritual worlds, if the only purpose of tombs was to shelter the dead? Despite the fact that it is designed to open a stargate establishing a portal to another dimension so the soul can return, 4 civilizations of the doorway journey into the afterlife. There was a belief in the ancient world that our physical life is an opportunity for us to prepare for a big destiny that lies ahead. Could ancient tombs have served an alien purpose as portals connecting the departed with celestial beings after this life? Many ancient astronaut theorists think the solutions might be found by digging deeper into the enigmatic literature of ancient Egypt. Saqqara, situated on the west bank of the Nile River, 20 miles south of Cairo. This archaeological site is one of the oldest and largest burial grounds in all of Egypt. Overlooking the immense necropolis lies the Pyramid of King Teti, the first ruler of Egypt's 6th dynasty. Teti built his pyramid and an adjoining mortuary temple during his reign, more than 4,000 years ago. Now, this pyramid is very important. It contains the oldest religious writing in the world. The Permatex, according to archaeologists, the pyramid texts are a collection of ancient Egyptian religious writings that date back to 2400 BC. They contain passages about Osiris, the Egyptian god of the afterlife, and descriptions of how to prepare the pharaoh's remains during his ascent to the heavens after death. But according to ancient astronaut theorists, the pyramid texts didn't only guide the pharaoh to an afterlife, they actually provided instruction on how the pharaoh could travel to other worlds. What is important to realize is that the ancient Egyptians say that about 25,000 years ago, the gods lived amongst them, then they disappeared again. What the Pyramidex are saying is that we, the ancient Egyptians specifically, are able to rejoin the gods once more after dying in order to do so. But once we've passed away, we're talking about some sort of other dimensional travel for the soul to engage in foreign travel. Delta of the Nile. The rolling cocoon of a dung beetle, also known as a scarab, makes a tiny centimeter-wide trail in the desert floor in Delta Egypt. This odd-looking 2-inch-long bug uses the dung as both a source of food and a place to store its eggs. It is the only insect on Earth known to navigate by following the light of the Milky Way galaxy, and biologists just made this discovery in 2013. Despite all barriers, it will roll the ball in a straight trajectory. It's interesting that a great civilization could pay so much attention to a little bug, but 5,000 years ago, the ancient Egyptians revered the scarab as a sacred symbol, signifying a connection to the gods, and it frequently appears in hieroglyphics and Egyptian temples. It's a common image at the Temple of Karnak, which overlooks the sacred lake where the pharaohs were crowned, a giant scarab. The Capri Egyptians observed the sun moving across the sky during the day and also observed beetles moving balls of dung around the desert sands. So they believed that the sun was the eye of Ra, which was Ra's chariot or his flying machine, and the force that moved it was the scarab-headed god Khepri, and the scarab symbolized Khepri. The Egyptians also observed beetles moving balls of dung around the desert sands. The sound of an astronaut theorists speculate that Khepri's depiction as a scarab, and occasionally as a human with a scarab head, may have been inspired by actual encounters the ancient Egyptians had with extraterrestrial beings. But one has to wonder whether or not these beings actually existed, given how proudly they carved their history into countless walls, and how, according to the ancient astronaut theory, we all came into existence through a purposeful mutation of our genus. Yes, according to ancient astronaut theories, and other evidence suggests that the Egyptians' preoccupation with the scarab permeated even their funeral rites. Negative Egypt. The ruins of the Osiris Hall, where multitudes gathered to worship the underworld deity Osiris, as opposed to many of the other gods, are located within this vast archaeological site 7 miles west of the Nile. While many scholars have suggested that this is nothing more than to worship the sun, the Egyptians believed that the sun also had wings and was at the center of the sky. So in my opinion, something else was depicted. Perhaps an extraterrestrial event that actually occurred in reality, even though most ancient astronomers believed that Osiris actually lived physically on Earth as one of Egypt's pharaohs. Osiris is frequently depicted with a winged disk of the sun, although most ancient astronomers, when I hear a story like that, where a being is dismembered, and then someone puts the pieces back together and is able to magically resurrect him, I have to wonder if it's possible that Osiris wasn't some type of biological entity, but rather he was some type of machine or robot for ancient astronaut theorists. Perhaps the strongest evidence that Osiris may have been a robot can be found in the ancient texts that describe the ancient astronauts. The carving at Abydos depicts Osiris and his resurrected form as a pillar that unmistakably resembles a contemporary Tesla coil. This carving is known as the Jed pillar. Osiris appears to have Isis's hand pushed into his back, and she says, perhaps it illustrates how she was controlling Osiris. Could it be that the Osiris story is entirely different than what we have thought? Is it possible that extremely advanced extraterrestrial machines were encountered by our ancestors in the distant past? And if so, might there be any physical proof? According to ancient astronaut theorists, yes. Please click the subscribe button and the bell icon so you never miss a new movie. Thank you for watching.